1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello again, just messing around with an old tune. From what I understand, it's probably based on a saxophone thing by Wardell Gray. I need to research that more, but I think it was a saxophone player, Wardell Gray, came up with these licks, this melody. And sometime in the 1950s, Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, a vocal trio rather, put words to this tune and made it a song called Twisted. And of course, Joni Mitchell covered it, I think, in 1974 on her album Court and Spark. So it's kind of handy because people of a certain age, my generation, who may have heard the Joni Mitchell thing, and you kind of have it in the back of your mind, her singing the melody. It's got cute lyrics. It's funny. It's about somebody who's crazy, and they're seeing an analyst, and the analyst keeps telling them they're nuts, and it's all kinds of back and forth humorous lyrics. But what I realized when I sat down to play the melody was it's got some nice blues lines. And I have a friend who, he was working on some blues lines, but he said, I don't want to do too much bending. And the great thing about this is there's not one bend in the whole C blues melody that we have here. And of course the melody is made up of some really cool kind of bebop-y blues licks, some flat nines, sharp fives, and stuff like that. So anyway, it's basically a C blues. So let's just walk through the chords. C7 to F7, back to C7, F7, C major 7, E minor 7, A7, D minor 7, G7, C6, A7, D minor 7, G7, then we're back. C7, 12 bar framework, back to C7, F7, 4 chord. Now we're going to C major 7, E minor 7, A7, D minor 7 for a whole measure, G7 for a whole, C6, A7, D minor 7, G7. So it's basically a 12-bar blues, F7. The only difference goes to C major 7, then a turnaround, E minor 7, A7, D minor 7, G7, C6, A7, D minor, G7. Okay, so I'll just walk you through what I think are some of the nice phrases in here. Okay, so I think what I like about it is it kind of pulls you out a little bit from your ingrained stuff that you always play. If I was playing a 12-bar blues and I was trying to just improvise a little bit, it would always be centered around this area and kind of centered around that arpeggio. So right off the bat, this is pulling me out of that, kind of waking me up. And the first chord is C7, and it's a nice little phrase. The lyric is, my analyst told me, that I was right out of my head, but it's my analyst told me. So again, the chord is C7. We're kind of half-stepping it into the third, the E. So E is the third of the C7. 5, 6, flat 7, back to the G. So over the C7, what we're doing is chromatically into the third, 5, 6, flat 7, 5. Now when the chord changes to the F7, it's a similar thing. We're going chromatically into the 3rd, 5, 6, flat 7, 5, 6, 5. Now this one's kind of unusual. So let's take a look at that. Okay. Already explained that. Okay. Now we've got basically F sharp into G, B flat, C, D flat, C, G flat. That's kind of a hip line because it's all over C7. So let's just take a look at what that is. Okay, so it's chromatically F sharp into the 5 of the C7 chord, the flat 7, the root, the flat 9, the root down to the flat 5, the G flat. So over this chord, you have that. And now, right here, the chord, the underlying chord is F7. We could do a little triangle here, just F7. But the melody is emphasizing a B natural. And in my new real book from Shure Publishing, the twisted transcription I can show you in a minute, they indicate an F9 sharp 11, which would be this. So instead of a straight, F7, or, F7, or F7, they have the F9 sharp 11. You don't really need the root, so forget about the root. Just play the first 4 strings. And the line over that is 1. Now, here it's a little different from a regular blues. It goes to a C major 7. And the line over that is 5, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4. Now, we've got E minor 7 for 2 beats and A7. So over the E minor 7 we have, which is actually E, G, B, but the B is flat, so it's like a flat 5, which is kind of nice. Now over D minor 7 we have F on the 2nd string, frets 12, 11, 10, and then this is nice. The melody is E flat, D, D flat, G, A. Now you could do it with octaves, or you could actually do this. It's all over a G7. And all that is you could even just do the first 4 strings. It's going to be G7, sharp 5, sharp 9. Take the pinky off, it turns into a regular G9, G flat 9, and then we're going to bar the first 2 strings with the middle and bar the next 2 strings, the 3rd and 4th, with the index for a C6, 9. So it's nice because you could, the first time through, you could just go, single notes. Maybe after that you could do octaves. And then you could even just do like a little chord thing. Let me try it again without the bass, without the root. Okay, so let's move along here. The second time through this slightly more sophisticated 12-bar blues in C, we've got this line. So just think of first few chords are standard blues, C7 to F7 back to C7, and we have this. Okay, so I think the first part of it, I think it's based on a Charlie Parker thing. I think he might have played something like this in Now's the Time, because when I was reading it and playing it, it kind of felt like Charlie Parker. So anyway, yeah, over the C7. It's right on the first beat. So 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's take a look at what that is. The chords are going to be one measure of C7, one measure of F7, and back to C7 for 2 measures. So we're starting on the root, which is kind of unusual. C, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, E. Now a little triplet trill here. F, G, F, E, D, C, B natural, D, B, C, G. Now the chords move back to C7. And this is nice. The lyric here is, you know, but I knew what the analyst is telling me I'm nuts, but I knew what was happening. I knew I was a genius. So it's like, I knew I was a genius. It's over the F7. So if you do a little chord melody of it, you can see that and then come down to the first string F, play the second string C, the flat 7, the E flat on the second string, landing on the 13. So let me just try that again. Now it goes to the C major 7, a quarter rest on the first beat. Slide up to G, and then so that's going to be one more time from the top. I'm not going to bother with the chord melody. Let's just get through the regular 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Sorry. That's actually one that I wanted to point out right there over that D minor 7. It's actually a nice 2-5-1. Let's just take a look. Let me give you a look at this thing because I've been staring at it for a few minutes now. It's a 2-page layout of Twisted by Wardell Gray and Andy Ross of Lambert, Hendricks Ross. My impression is that Wardell Gray came up with the hit melody, and it says there, music by Wardell Gray, so that was my first clue. And lyric by Andy Ross, who was a member of Lambert, Hendricks Ross. They had a thing, I think it was a lot back in the 40s and maybe the 50s, where they would hear a horn solo that they really liked. And they would transcribe it, get it down note for note, and then put lyrics to it. I think it was called vocalese, but anyway, this is the whole thing. Hopefully you have it somewhere in a book. Yeah, the ending there is kind of a joke ending, the bottom line. But anyway, I'll just pull out one or two of these phrases that I think are kind of worthwhile. Over the D minor 7, it's actually a 2-5-1, D minor to G7 to the C. Yeah, so it would be D minor 7, G7 to C6, A7, turn around. But basically it's a 2-5-1 because you're 2, 5, and then if we could just go as far as the C6 and consider that. So it's nice. Again, you know, you're just locked into patterns. I'm so pattern oriented that it gets very, very boring, not only for the listener, but it can get very boring for you the player as well, if you're just moving through patterns. So again, for D minor 7, you know, I would be in that area normally, or up here. But this is nice because it's going to knock me out of my pattern. And over the D minor 7 for 4 beats, it's going to be E, G, F, C, A, E, D. So just, that's the chord. The pickup note on the and after 4, the preceding measure, is going to be the E. Now this is nice. We're going to start out standard, and then here we get a little bit altered. So here we go. Try that again. That's a nice 2-5-1. Wrong string. Here we go. Okay, there was a really hip line over C7 that comes just a few seconds later. So let me take you through this again. Here we go. We're going to start with that first phrase. We're going to keep playing if we can, and get to the next one that I really like. My sight reading's under the gun here. It's not that great. That's a great line. So it's over C7. After this, the line here is they all left at Edison and also at Einstein. And then it's very, very chromatic and it's very altered. So over C7, the pickup note here is going to be F sharp, going chromatically into the 5th of the C7, which is the G, to the D sharp, which is the sharp 9, to the 3rd E, to the root, to the flat 9, to the natural 9, to the flat 7, to the sharp 5, and then we're into the next chord, F7, and we're playing the 3rd of that chord, which is A. Too many words, but basically just think in terms of C7. Okay, let me try that again. Yeah, it builds up a nice tension, and it resolves when we get to the F7. So it's like, yeah, so one more time. Starting on the F sharp, chromatically entering into the 5th of the C7, G, the sharp 9, D sharp on the 3rd string, the 3rd, C, C sharp, D, B flat on the 4th string, G sharp on the 4th string. Now we're resolving to the anyway. Yeah, so basically we got 2 or 3 decent phrases out of that. Let me do the C7 thing one more time. give you a look at that one. The bottom one here is the very chromatic, very kind of altered over the C7. I didn't get a chance to tab it out, but if you read standard, that would be helpful here. Okay. One more time on that C7. Anyway, hope you like the tune. Just some ideas for blues licks where there's no bending required. Some nice little hip things in there, sharp nines, flat fives, all that kind of thing. If you haven't checked it out, check out Joni Mitchell's version of Twisted. You could also check out the original. There's actually a video from the old Playboy at Night, late night TV show, which is before my time. Hugh Hefner's in it. And Annie Ross is actually singing it. And she has Count Basie on piano and she has Freddie Green on guitar. So even if you don't like the vocal, you can kind of get into the piano and the guitar. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Give me a like if you found this useful. And we'll work on more blues stuff again next time. All right, keep practicing. Have fun.